Hi, everybody, and thank you very much for taking this hour on a Sunday to join me for this MBA Masterclass. And we'll basically join together and talk a little bit about how our bodies are doing and basically how we hold certain things in our bodies. And I'll offer a couple of different tools that you can use um, to be able to deal with that kind of stuff and release. That's ultimately what we're on for. So I'm going to guide you through a technique called focusing today, and some of you may have heard of this and some of you may have not heard of it. So this is going to be a practical kind of information. So the best thing to do is get a piece of paper and a pen handy, because you're going to need it. And the other thing is, if you are somewhere where you're surrounded with a lot of people, it would probably be best to find a spot where you are completely on your own and comfortable, where you can just relax your body, where you can calm your mind a little bit and not be distracted with a lot of different things going on. So go ahead and find that spot. And there will be, so I'll guide you for the first little part, and then I'll offer some tools, and then we can open it for questions and answers. And if we have time, someone may volunteer to have something actually worked out today. So usually I do this with people privately, one-on-one. So this is a new attempt to do a group session like this, and hopefully, and we'll see how it works, hopefully it does, and you get something out of it. All right, so just as we start here, you can use the chat, by the way, for comments. Everyone's muted at this point just so that we don't get interference. But if you have any questions right away or something that's popping up, go ahead and comment in the chat and I'll check that in a few minutes. So let's start by kind of tuning into the body. And sometimes I close my eyes as I guide this. If you're comfortable closing your eyes as you are listening to this, that would be great. And if not, you can definitely keep your eyes open. If anything else comes up, we'll go with that. So go ahead and find that spot. If you need to move around, if you need to go get some water before you get comfortable, feel free to do so, because this is going to take some focusing on your part to be able to connect with your body. So if there are any needs you have, if you have a need to go to the washroom, get water, do that before we get started into it. All right. So the first question I have for you is, feel and think, what are usual symptoms that you can can resonate with? What do you usually feel physically in your body that is a symptom, that comes and goes, or it's a tension that is sometimes there, sometimes not? So go ahead and post that in the chat right now. Like, I want to know what brought you here. What is it that physically comes up that you recognize, in the sense that your body gives you indication that something's going on? So any kind of physical pain or ache, tension in different places. And this is, yeah, so Stephanie says headaches, feeling achy, sluggish, jaw tension. Absolutely, jaw tension is a big one for people, especially these days. Shoulder and neck area, stress, sometimes left thumb area. Okay, interesting. So all those things are valid, and I want you to keep them in mind. Now, for this particular session, one of those may come up, or you may feel that something totally new and different actually shows up today. So go with whatever's present, because that's probably the most valid thing today that you can get some information from. All right. So let's get comfortable, and we're going to tune into the body now. So we're starting with this focusing exercise. And always remember that this, whatever you remember out of this, is something you can do all the time. This information is yours to keep. So go ahead and breathe right into the body a couple times. Allow your chest to expand and contract. And allowing the breath to become comfortable, so that your body starts to feel a little bit looser where you're sitting, relaxing your shoulders down. Feel free to move around or shake a little bit just to get to that completely at peace, comfort in your body. You're in your body in the moment. And you are just breathing and just feeling the body relaxing right now. We're not thinking about anything yet. We're not listening to the mind chatter yet. We're just focusing to relax the body for a moment. And this sometimes takes a while. Be gentle with this process. Know that if you're easy to get into a place of complete relaxation, that's amazing. And that sometimes that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Good. So now we're going to sift through whatever comes to mind as you're sitting there in your relaxed body. And with this, what you're trying to do is let all the things in your mind come and be right in front of you. So a little visual that could work is imagining yourself in a room full of different boxes. Okay, and you want to line up these boxes against the wall so that you can find yourself right in the middle of this room. You can label these boxes, and the labels correspond to whatever is going on in your mind. So watch the thoughts, watch what's coming up as far as what's occupying your mind mentally right now. What are you thinking about? And maybe you have a box to hold stuff about work. Maybe you have a box to hold stuff about your relationship, your family, friends, social life. This is completely individual for you, so allow yourself to take this process and go through it. And watch what comes to mind as you're sitting and relaxing in your body. Notice the few big things that jump up right away, and allow that to come out of your mind and into its appropriate container or box, so that it's not in your head anymore. It's out there and you can find it. And now this process can sometimes take a while, depending on what you have going on in your life, of course. So give yourself as much time as you need to declutter your mind in this way. You are basically really just noticing what comes up and finding its appropriate container, compartment to put it in, so that your mind can get quieter and less busy. And take a couple of really big, full, refreshing breaths here. And you can kind of blow forward as if you are letting all of that be cleared, as if you're letting all that mind chatter be out there where you've put it. And another big relieving breath, and allow this breath to bring you inside your body again. And now you're going to scan the body from head to toe and notice what catches your attention right away. Notice what physical sensation or feeling or pain, discomfort is present for you right in this moment. Don't judge it. Just trust that whatever, even if it's something very small and seemingly insignificant, allow yourself to trust and to pay attention. So just as you scan down, up and down, notice what comes up. The first 1, 2 to 3 things that you feel physically right now are exactly what you want to focus on. So if you have your pen and paper handy, go ahead and write it down. And stay in this relaxed, moving state, but allow yourself to have that pen and paper handy so you can jot some notes. And write down what it is that you felt. The first 1, 2, maybe 3 things. We'll work on 1, but you just write down what came up. And when you feel like you've written down what you need to, stay with your body and with that sense. Now pick one. If you had a couple, just pick one thing that was more significant to you. Here you can ask your body for what that is. What do I need to work on right now in this moment? What's important and what's significant for me? And pick that thing that jumps up at you right away. It is important and it's valid. Now I want you to stay with the sensation of this. You are not figuring it out. You're not judging it. You are just feeling the whole sense of that. I often use the word the aura of this sensation so that you are not getting caught into the details of it, not the position of it, not the anatomical structure of it. You are just feeling the sensation, the felt sense of what that is. So spend a few moments here and remember that this is not you trying to figure out what it is, why it's there. This is you just focusing into a sensation that your body just gave you. You are using your curiosity to get closer to that feeling and explore it, examine it. Stay with this. We're going to spend a few moments here. I want you to get really familiar with what that sense is for you. You're not naming it yet. You're not giving it reasons for why it's there. You are just allowing yourself to feel. You may find that as you do this, the sense shifts, and that's okay. Just follow it. And really remember the felt sense of this that came up for you physically. And take a nice breath. Noticing what it's like to really have paid attention to something for at least a minute or so, in the feeling of it, not the figuring it out. And now, as you're close to it, allow some words that match what that feels like to come to mind. Again, this doesn't have to make any logical sense at this point. Maybe some words come up. Go ahead and write them down if they do. Perhaps there's a visual that you can relate to as well that comes up when you think of that felt sense. And go ahead and write that down as well. And come back to feeling it and noticing the words that are coming up around it, the visuals that describe this felt sense. And now allow that to unfold naturally. What else is coming up that you can note, that you can write down? Go ahead, if there's something, write it down as well. What is significant about what's coming to your mind as you focus on this physical sensation? And you are doing this right. Don't get caught up in, am I writing this? Am I feeling? What am I feeling? What is this? Try not to have those questions, because they are taking you away from, those logical questions will take you away from the sense. So a nice big breath, and you come back to the sensation you felt. Now, after you had felt it, you had written a few words about it. Notice it. What happened to it? Where is it? Perhaps something shifted. Perhaps it got worse. Perhaps it's in a different area now. Just notice anything that is significant. Coming back to your body. If there are any big lingering thoughts, go ahead and write them down. Feeling that sense. And now go ahead and take a look at your paper that you've written some things on. And I want you to compare if the words that came up, the visuals, if that matches perfectly that initial sense that you had, that initial sensation that you felt the aura of. Notice if these two match, if they go together. You may or may not, you may find that they do, or they maybe don't. And either way is okay. And now here, the important part is, again, to watch what comes to mind as you go through this process, as you focus on the body, come up with some words, compare it back to the body, use those words and see if they resonate, if they match, if they go together. Maybe they don't, and maybe you need to change something about the description or about how it feels, or maybe there are some other things coming up, and those are all important things to notice. So write it down if there are things that change or come up, and take a couple big breaths. Now we're at a point where you're about to make some connection between what this body is trying to tell me about this specific thing. So take a look at the words that you've written, and maybe the description or the image that came up, whichever one came up for you, and ask yourself this: in what area of my life do I feel those things, those words, same ones that you had? Or in what area of my life do I feel like this visual that came up? If you had some words like heavy, full, tense, What causes you to feel this way in your life situation right now? And write it down. Ask yourself, how is my body holding my experiences, current or past, and how am I experiencing that right now? Also ask yourself, what do I need to do about this so that it starts to feel a little better? Now you can think of the body sense, and maybe it's, go for a walk, get a massage, ask my doctor, anything like that physically. And then go to the visual or the words that came up. So whatever words came up, ask yourself, what needs to happen for these words to shift and start to feel lighter, even a tiny shift bit better? So how can these words feel a little better? What's a 1 degree forward of this word to feel better? What word is that? What feeling is that? And again, you're just jotting things down as they come up. Take a nice big breath and feel the connection that your mind and body are making in the moment. And with these breaths, allow yourself to soften into this experience even further. Again, this is very personal for you, and you are really the only one whose attention is needed for this. This is why you are experiencing it. So when we're talking about, so stay with your experience and what's coming up for you, but when we talk about our own physical sensations and feelings, often those are triggers. Something happened to trigger that, even if it's just a simple fever. Something in the body needs to regulate itself, and fever is one way to do that. If there is any kind of specific pain and tension, that's the body's way of saying, I'm holding on to this here, and I will do so until you realize it and help me take it off. And so in this approach, we're viewing our bodies as these containers, as these vehicles that we use to live life through, and they are full of information. So this is in an attempt to understand some of it. So again, take a breath and just go back to what's come up for you at this point. And see if you can, at this point, narrow this down. It's maybe something you knew, and maybe it's something completely new for you, right? Like it's something that you didn't actually realize before. It gave you some awareness that you didn't have before. Or maybe it was something that you've been working on for years and it's still lingering. Either way, it's perfect. See if you can try to come up with a statement as to what would you like to change about that. So if something is feeling uncomfortable, usually we want to make a choice to get better or to make it feel better. So in your own personal situation of what's come up, just think about that and write down a statement of, I would like to shift, fill in the blank, so and so, or I would like to change this thing about myself, if it's a belief. If it's a physical condition, same thing, you can write it down. If it's something to do with a relationship, also, how would I like to feel in this relationship? What is the change that you'd need to make in order to feel better? And now take a moment to notice how from your body, from a sense that came to you briefly, you are now getting to a core something that is important to you, important to your life. and take a few moments to breathe and just feel that awareness and that connection, because at this point, because you know what it is and where it is in your body, you should be able to feel a difference somewhere, some sort of a shift in the way it feels now. It perhaps changed a millimeter, but it should give you some sort of indication that something shifted slightly, or in a big way, maybe. And so as you're breathing, allow yourself to release anything that is lingering and no longer serves you. You're only here to find out what's true and important for you. And if there's other things lingering that are not something you need to focus on, intend that that goes as you breathe out, and let it go. Good. So let's go back to the statement that you wrote down that you would like to see some change around. The first step around that is that you just became aware. You are aware of this situation that needs to change, or this belief, or this, whatever it is for you. Now, the second thing, and this is where this can get a lot deeper and it could take a lot longer and it could be way easier said than done, but this is where we talk about acceptance and forgiveness. And I've this is where I take clients through this process and we dive very deep into what that looks like. Because it's really not enough to just have the awareness. There's got to be some other things following up. Otherwise, we get stuck in awareness. In fact, there's a lot of people walking around with way too much awareness, way hyper aware of themselves and others, and yet nothing really truly changes. So this is the second step to this is acceptance and forgiveness. So with this statement that you wrote, or whatever it is that you'd like to change, the stage that is the most healing part of the journey is this acceptance and forgiveness. So what does that actually mean? Well, and again, I don't know a specific thing, and we can maybe open up the floor to talk about something more specific in a minute, but what does that actually mean when it comes to something that you need to change? I'm aware that something needs to change, and now it's my job to do the work, to accept and forgive. And that all starts with you. So look at the situation you have in front of you and ask yourself, in what way am I still holding some resentment? Because resentment is the opposite of acceptance. In what way am I still blaming? Because that also, you know, doesn't help to reach forgiveness if we're blaming. And how can I open my heart? How can I open my heart to accept, forgive, and love myself in this situation so that I can achieve that for the other people involved or the situation involved? Now, if we're talking about something very personal, that's at the very core. How can I love? How can I open my heart to myself and accept myself in this situation and what I did or didn't do or said or didn't say? Um, and how can I project that to the other people involved? Acceptance, right? And this is where the process can go on forever. And I offer tools like journaling. I have a journal guide that is available for usually for clients or anybody really, but it's something I like to recommend. Journaling is a great way. Letter writing, being able to, um, use other tools like meditation and affirmations and all those different things that are helpful to get in the zone and to open our heart and to lift and shift that vibration. That's what basically this step is all about. And this can take a while. And then looking at the situation that you have in front of you, you've now become aware that something needs to change and shift. And you've done some work to really accept and forgive and move forward and, release some old feelings and things around that situation. Now, the step that is sometimes hardest to do is action, right? Taking action. So what do I mean by taking action on this? If we're talking about changing an old belief, for example, taking action after you have become aware and done some work to forgive and accept the situation. Taking action maybe is setting a boundary with someone. Taking action could be quitting your job and moving forward in a direction that you need to. Taking action can be having a conversation that has been really difficult and, hard to do because you haven't had the words for it. Taking action can mean just intuitive, guided, inspired action. What do I need to do if I want this to move in the direction that I want it to move? And you will be supported with that. The worst thing to do is sit with it and not do anything about it, or do exactly what you have been doing for years about it, because that's when you're right back to the stage of awareness. So this is what I call the formula of change, or the process of change, is the 3 A's. Awareness, acceptance, and action will give you change. And you can literally write this down, ponder on it, and you can use it and apply it to everything, from the littlest, tiniest thing to the biggest thing that might take you years. And I've seen it with clients. It works wonders when people understand this step-by-step kind of process, because then you're not feeling stuck. You can identify what stage you're in. Where am I in right now regarding this or whatever it is? Well, I'm still in the stage of awareness. I'm just starting to find out what it is that I feel. Now, I like to use the body for this because the body never lies. We can talk about stuff all day long and tell the stories all day long, and it's not necessarily awareness, it's telling. It's a story to be told. And stories are great, but when it comes to changing something, you want to find out what's the truth. What's the real truth inside it, right? So changing a headache could just mean you're thirsty that day, and your body will tell you that. If there's feeling of exhaustion and depletion and like sort of like so much pressure, it could be so many things, but maybe it's stuff coming at you. You're being bombarded and your body's saying, I'm not doing anything. I'm just gonna sit here and be like this because something inside of me is taking all of my energy and I can't possibly do anything else. And so when that's the case, it's good to know, like, what is my body trying to tell me with this? Okay, well, maybe there's something that is going on that maybe I have no control over, but I'm in the middle of it and it's draining me. So how can I work on my business right now? I can't. So that's where you become a lot more connected to what needs to be done in the moment, so you can go get that need met, yeah, and accept and forgive what it is that needs to move you forward into the piece of action. Because you all know, like, when you're on your game and when you're feeling good, things are showing up and happening all the time. And when you're not, like in infinite receiving, we talk about expansioning. All of those symptoms are super real. Like, they are so real that you feel them physically. And sometimes they have a lot of information for you. Sometimes they're old and repetitive, and so you can tell that for sure. So go ahead and now take a nice couple breaths, shake it all off, give a couple sighs, and I want you to notice what's come up for you now. Now come right back to the mind where you're noticing the thoughts, the questions, the what ifs, the how about this is, all those little things that come up, and write down whatever is important, whatever feels like significant. Go ahead and write it down. What has caught your awareness? What has caught your attention? And I've presented to you a process that, again, it takes a long time for some to go through the whole process, and I'm attempting to explain this in about an hour. So there might be some wondering, some confusion, some things that are coming up that don't necessarily feel like, okay, I get this fully. But the most important part of today is understanding that in your body is all of the information you'll ever need. It's stored there. And when it comes to life, you know, your body is one of the biggest, most solid things that you have. In fact, it's your only possession in this lifetime. You don't have any, like, you don't possess anything else. Nothing else is really yours forever. Oops, did I just break a truth? But you do have this body, so it's nice to learn how to listen and to know what it's telling you, because then you can go on and do something about it. And if you know how to connect what's going on in your body's telling you to what's happening emotionally for you in your life, bonus, right? Because you don't have to get stuck with that emotion for such a long time and allow it to take over your whole life. You can acknowledge it, accept it, forgive it, work with it, act on it, move on. And I think that's, again, I'm making it sound super easy and dumb, but it's not when you're actually going through it. And it is, because it's really truly that's what we're meant to do. We're meant to, like, something comes at us, we acknowledge it and we learn from it, we take some lessons, maybe we shift some emotion, and then we move on to the next one. We're not meant to get stuck on one specific thing and be there forever. Even love, the highest vibrational feeling, you're not always constantly in a state of love. I mean, it's nice to think that we could do that, but we can't, because things come down so that you can achieve love again, like up and down, right? Like you can come back to that energy. The problem becomes when fear, the opposite, is the dominant vibration, so that you spike up and feel good and love and joy and excitement, and then you go right back to that fearful place, because that's kind of like the norm. That's what's been going on for so long. So how do we flip that upside down and feel better? And I think one of the ways is to learn that what doesn't feel good has information, and that you have control over it. You are the only one who has control over your own shit, if you excuse the language that way. So hopefully that's making sense for you. I personally am on a bit of a mission to help people get to understand this stuff. I see it. I've seen it in my practice as a massage therapist for over 10 years. I mean, the first few were slight confusion. I'm like, why are all these people walking around with all these pains and aches and never going away? And I've also seen it in my own life, where I've had some, at the age that I was in my 20s, some incredible heartbreak breaks. And at the time, I thought it was, just something's wrong with me, obviously. Like, clearly, why would I have to go through this? Something's not okay with me. Which then led me to actually go into, again, body work and experience this stuff for myself. And while I didn't have anything chronic physically, I was feeling a lot of feelings in my body. Like, there was a lot of different sensations that were unusual. Had a lot of weight accumulated in my forward mid region, interestingly, out of everywhere, like not my face, just the mid region. And I had all these, like, weak ankles and just very random things that, you know, I would sprain my ankles all the time, and random things. And this huge heartbreak that basically left me just a quick story. Met someone, he lived in out of town in Montreal, I was in Toronto. We talked for like 4 hours a day, because we met in person in Toronto. He left for Montreal. We talked for 4 hours. 3 months later, he invited me to go visit him. I did, and he never showed up. Like, complete, not even a text kind of thing. So moving fast forward is what got triggered. Well, first of all, my heart was shattered, like in million pieces, because I was like, who does that? And what's wrong with me? And then, of course, that led to my own issues of abandonment, which were not 4 months old. They were 20 some years old. and in that process of awareness that this happened and it caused me to feel that feeling, the next step was now starting to accept and forgive. Well, how could you accept and forgive? That was awful. Like, but it did lead me back to the older issue at hand, which was to do with my father, of course. So that's where the healing needed to go. That's where the healing, the acceptance, the forgiveness, all that work needed to go right down to that source. And that person in Montreal doesn't even matter. He was just like what's the word? He just like brought that experience on so that I can feel it, and so that I can focus on it and decide to heal from that. So he had no idea. He couldn't possibly know what he was doing, right? And I could have still been holding a lot of grudge towards him, but because I decided to focus on the issue at hand, the core issue about it, I don't hate him now, and I don't hate my father anymore. So it was just an interesting, it's one of the biggest things in my life really that taught me how this all really works. And so the action pieces for me in that situation were actually having to communicate that. Like I had to communicate with this person eventually. Like, this is 10 years ago. I needed to let him know what he had brought for me. Now, he has a whole different story. He hurt himself by doing that in so many ways, but he had no idea what he stirred in me. And so I had to communicate that. Another piece of action was to reconnect with my father and kind of like not work on that relationship, but make him understand that I understand. You know, like explain to him that I get it, that he did what he could, and that it's not no longer holding me. Like, I'm no longer holding that against him and against myself. So those were like really tough monuments that came out of some dude I met who I thought I fell in love with, and that didn't work out. So it's all very intricate and very not as easy as it sounds. And I'm telling you about one of my biggest things, but I've even done this process where I listen to my body and then I go and do what I need to do about what to eat for dinner and about, you know, do I need to book a vacation here or there? You know, do we stay at an Airbnb or at a hotel? And it's all very personal, and this is a skill. This is a skill. Now I teach this also to my clients. Like, do you need me or do you need yourself? Is this something that you can work on, or is this something that you need a physical therapist for? What do you talk to about how do you talk to your doctor about the things that are going on in you? Do you understand your body so that you can express what it is that you need? Or do you just go and say, I have this pain here, and they say, take this pill? Again, what is important? So yeah, big breaths. So go back and notice how that thing is feeling that you started off with. I want you to kind of feel right now in the moment what's all been brought up to the surface for you, because in a second here I'm gonna guide you to release and let go, and especially with this beautiful, let's call it beautiful, solar lunar eclipses craziness going on in the world, how are we actually, a lot of this is my understanding actually is that a lot of what's no longer serving us needs to be let go of, needs to shift, right? So how do we do that if we don't know what's no longer serving us? And how do we actually access what's no longer serving us? And who do we let it go to? So, so with this process, I know that some of you are a lot more versed than I am in this astrological field, but I feel the energy, so I know it's real. And all I can offer is that right now we name a few things that have come up that you have noticed and become aware of, and ask permission. Now, here's where we get spiritual. Get your guides in, get your higher self in, ask your angels, whoever you feel supporting you, God, anyone, anything, any entity that you believe in, that you feel helps you and holds you and is unconditional for you. Call that in and ask that your no longer needed things be taken away. So I usually like to imagine it's almost like someone comes and bathes me. It's like, I believe in angels. I call on my angels, guardian angels. I know my higher self is always there looking out for me, and I don't even have to think about it. And I also know that there's an energy that wants me to be well. It's like this force, this life-giving, birth-giving. It wants me to be really, really well. Anything other than that is just not allowed in my physical vicinity. So take a couple moments. I always love to put my hand on my heart because it feels close to just, I can feel myself physically, but it feels like a heart opening experience. So just think of that and allow yourself to have this experience in whatever way makes sense for you. I know that there's a lot of different people knowing different things, so allow yourself a few moments in whatever way that feels. Call in your support system, your spiritual support system, and ask them to lift you and uplift you and take away all of the burdens and fears and worries and things that have been heavy on you, things that have been constricting your body, things that have been weighing heavy on your shoulders, on your mind. And ask that spiritual support team of everyone that you feel is there for you, everything that you feel is there for you. Like a vacuum cleaner, just suction all of those energies and emotions and feelings out of you. And allow yourself to release them. Allow yourself to let go of what is no longer serving you. Allow yourself to release old, held tension, pain, discomfort, physically and emotionally. Allow your energies to be lifted by the solar eclipse and the moon and those things that a human cannot mess with. Literally, we cannot mess with those energies. It's so powerful and so strong. And imagine yourself here as another species, just like a tree or a flower or an animal, living in this life, being supported by this life force energy that is out there giving birth to everything. and allow yourself to tap and tune into that energy force. It's like the electricity for your toaster. Be the toaster and plug yourself in. And here you can call on to some things that you do want to experience. Call on to some energies and feelings and experiences that you're ready for. Step into that powerful, beautiful soul purpose that you're here to give birth to execute, to give life to. It's yours to take, no one can take it away from you. So it's as soon as you're ready, my friend. And intend that you are ready and what you are ready for. I love this this saying, and it even has a physical movement to it. But I am here. I'm open. I'm ready. Guide me. It's my favorite thing to bring myself back into that balanced state. I am here. I'm open. I'm ready. Please guide me. And just feel that support. So I encourage you to go ahead and notice again physically the body. I'm going to say now, if you have any questions or anything more specific that we can cover, we'll go ahead and unmute. I'd love to hear from a couple of you that are here. If there was anything significant that came up. So go ahead and unmute and we'll have a conversation about it.